More than 800 people with one mission, promoting a healthy environment. We are the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection.
The eastern panhandle of West Virginia is one of the state's fastest growing areas, and with that growth comes increasing concerns over pollution.
That's especially true when it comes to water pollution, and that's the motivation for groups like the Blue Ridge Watershed Coalition and their message of environmental stewardship. The DEP's Brianna Hickman has their story.
The Shenandoah is part of this nation's history in a way that few other rivers are. George Washington and his brothers crossed over the Shenandoah not far from where we're standing right now to found Charlestown, and George Washington had a home near here. Thomas Jefferson rode along this Shenandoah, probably on the ground we're standing on his way to Harper's Ferry, which he declared to be a view worth the 3-month trip across the Atlantic Ocean, which is what it took back then. Later we had the Civil War raging back and forth across this river. Mosby's men were up and down. So it's just a part of our nation's history. It's a beautiful, beautiful river, and it's something that we need to pay attention to and care for.
John Maxey and his group, the Blue Ridge Watershed Coalition, are passionate about the Shenandoah River and are active in their efforts to help protect and preserve it.
The biggest challenges we're faced with on the Blue Ridge and on the Shenandoah River are overpopulation combined with a lack of knowledge about watershed issues. The population density wouldn't be as big of a challenge if people understood what the impact was and understood what their responsibility and stewardship of the watershed need to be.
Part of that understanding comes from interacting with the public through public service projects like this recent tree planting event in Moulton Park.
Projects are really important to get community buy-in, because what you want to do is you want to get people interested, and projects are a great way to do that. You don't necessarily need to have your political stance, your voice out. You just want to show people that you're doing something, and people just want to help. There's not a lot of trees in this area, and it's prone to flooding. So basically we did a tree project to put some hardwood trees back here so that we can preserve the banks, so when it does flood, which is inevitable, we can protect the riverbank and keep some of the soil here.
But erosion control is not the only problem on the group's radar.
One thing that we feel has had the biggest impact and takes a lot of resources and a lot of our time is our monitoring effort. We work with Friends of the Shenandoah and their lab. They have an EPA certified lab at Shenandoah University. And we go out with volunteers once a month for 2 years now and pull samples from 7 locations along this watershed, 3 here on the main stem of the Shenandoah, and then the rest in tributary streams coming down off the Blue Ridge Mountains. We've found indication of certain problems that we've tried to address with assistance from West Virginia DEP. We located one stream on the mountain that has very, very high levels of E. coli. We applied to DEP for grant help to do septic tank pumping in the area. And that gives us also an opportunity to educate people. So when we're going around and talking to people about what we found in the stream and why it's important that they get their systems pumped, we can offer them matching assistance through that DEP grant, and it also gives us a chance to explain what we're doing as a watershed group and what the dangers are to the river and why it's important that we pay attention.
And just as important as the message is how it's delivered.
People are very positive. In fact, one of the biggest strengths that we have in this area is the people. It's both our biggest threat and our biggest strength. Concern for and love of the river and the watershed bring people together of all different political persuasions. It's really wonderful to see that people can come together when they realize how important something like that is.
In Jefferson County, I'm Brianna Hickman for Environment Matters.
Blue Ridge is just one of dozens of watershed groups throughout the state. Chances are there's one in your area. The DEP divides the state watersheds into 4 areas: the northern, eastern, western, and southern basins, and assigns a basin coordinator to each one to work with groups like Blue Ridge. To find out more information, check out the water and waste section of our website, dep.wv.gov, and look for the link to basin coordinators. You'll find it in the watershed management section. Up next, we'll check out the DEP's latest outreach and education tool, a 1,700-gallon mobile aquarium.
Plus, a focus on the future, as dozens of kids get a chance to see what Mom and Dad do at the annual Take Your Son and Daughter to Work Day at DEP headquarters. We'll be back in a moment.